Underdog Collectibles is an online shop run by collectors for collectors. Join them every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night as they break new products, talk sports, and hopefully you'll pull a great hit to add to your collection. This week they'll be breaking Bowman Chrome, Mosaic Football, and Allen and Ginter. Check them out at www.udogcollect.com and tell them WaxPackHero sent you. Remember, always bet on the underdog. You're listening to the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute, a podcast where we discuss both the hobby and business sides of collecting. I'm your host, Mike Sommer, and I want to help you buy, sell, and trade your way into a collection you'll love. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute. Today, we are going to talk super collecting, and we are going to talk twins super collecting. And we are going to do that with none other than Stephan Loeffler, one of the hosts of the About the Card show. And he is a guy that has an encyclopedic knowledge of cards, which comes in handy when he's trying to collect every Twins base card along with the Washington Senators and put that together for his PC. So I wanted to bring Stephan onto the show to talk a little bit about his collecting background and his pursuit of his Minnesota Twins super collection. So with that, I'll roll the interview. Steph, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. And nice to be here.
Yeah, it's time that we got together and talked a little bit about your super collection, if you want to call it that. You are somebody who goes deep into a Twins personal collection, and I want to get into that in a little bit. But first, for those who don't know you, I want to maybe spend a few minutes just talking a little bit about your background. So tell me a little bit about how you got starting in collecting.
Sure. So when I was younger, my parents had a box of 1990 Score, 1991 Bowman Football, and 1991 Topps Baseball. Set away, stashed away, and he would occasionally show them to me, but he decided that being a young kid, I needed some hobbies, and he thought one good thing to do to have a collection. Briefly started with postcards, didn't really go far. In that, being a military family, we move around a lot. Easy to pick up a postcard here and there. But from there, it just merged into my love of sports, and naturally, cards followed. I broke those boxes out for the factory sets open, flipped them over, read all the stats. That especially 1990 Score just has that huge big block of text for all of the players. Just fun stats, learning. Bob Boone has the catcher's all-time record of games caught at the time. And in 91 being a special year for Twins fans, I especially took to 1991 Topps. And then from there, just grew blasters here or there as a kid, or holidays or whatnot. And really, I kind of exploded into my grand unified collecting just the Twins, just these major companies in 2009 or so. I'm nearly complete.
So what year did you start collecting? What year was that you started?
95, 96, somewhere in there. It would have been about 8, 9.
Okay, so 95, 96, those cards were a few years old at that point, and it was right at the tail end of the quote unquote junk wax era. A lot of things had already started to go down, and some trends were already happening at that point. That the peak was over, but that's when you kind of got started. Where were you? You mentioned that you moved around a lot when you were younger, being part of a military family. Where were you at when you started? Were you in Minnesota at that point?
No, we'd already moved. So we were living in Montgomery, and then shortly thereafter, we moved to a suburb, Prattville. And then from there, we went to Japan, New Orleans, briefly Ohio, which is where I eventually met with my wife. And then after Katrina, we moved here to Texas.
You're known for your almost deep encyclopedic knowledge of cards and facts about cards and some of the intricacies and nuances of different variations and errors and parallels and those types of things. Some would say a younger version of Rich Klein.
Sure.
And you talked about just a second ago your interest in some of the stats that you were finding on the backs of the cards, and that was something that pulled you in. Where do you think that interest comes from?
So I've always kind of been every kid has their favorites in school. So mine outside of PE were the math and the sciences. Had a huge love for those, and naturally baseball, more than any other sport, really brings in that statistical and historical record of, hey, this is what happened through the years, and you can kind of see the changes and the effects on the game, and different batters hit this way, or during this era, speedsters were more common versus home run hitters versus slap hitters versus. And I just really took to that. Being able to flip through a binder and seeing, okay, in this era, this is what was happening. Okay, now take in the historical aspect of what was all going on in the United States at the time, and you can see how the things kind of piece together between either how Topps produced the sets or how the players looked even. Yeah, I've always thought that was really interesting.
Let's dig into the Twins PC a little bit.
Sure.
You had mentioned already that you lived in a variety of places. There were other teams that you followed and somewhat became a fan of as you were growing up.
Sure.
What made you land on the Twins as that area of focus? What made them be the team out of all of these other ones that you decided to focus in on?
Well, so, and as you're growing up, you kind of try to find your own place and try to find what it is that I do. Listening to albums. Hey, I don't like that. Hey, I like this. Food. There are a variety of things that when you're a young child, you try to find and latch on to as your identity. And for me, being born in Minnesota and have plenty of family in Minnesota, I took to that. Hey, cool. And really, and I know that I've shared this on our show, but where we're living in Montgomery, there was a little putt-putt shop wherein, for X amount of tickets, you get X amount of cards. It was 1981 Fleer. And some of the cards that we'd picked out, my dad was picking out the guys with like the biggest afro or like the best stat, or hey, I've heard of this guy, essentially. But I'd found a guy who was from my hometown, and that was really cool to me. Being able to see, hey, my small hometown has 8,700-ish people. It's an hour south of the Canadian border, but hey, here he is represented on a big league card, a chewing gum card. Sweet. Okay, so you start to follow him, and naturally, it just grows from there where, okay, while he didn't play for Minnesota, I like the Minnesota teams, not the Bears, not the Lions, not the anybody else. I really like the Twins, hometown team. They won. It doesn't help that they won the World Series the year I was born, and the Vikings, sure, by extension. Really took to hockey, huge sport in my state. Kind of got hosed over by Dallas, but they're in the champion. They're in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I'll root for them too. Much like I'll root for the Ducks if they were to ever make it again, because yes, sure, Mighty Ducks, they came from us. Technically, Winnipeg is closer to my hometown than the Wild are, so maybe I kind of root for the Jets. But no, for the most part, I just kind of stick to the Minnesota teams.
Now, player and team collectors, they seem to come at it a variety of ways, or they can come at it from a variety of ways. How did you land on what your approach and focus was going to be for your Twins collection?
Well, sure. I had known about Topps, obviously, and Score, and doing some minor research when I was first organizing things of, hey, this is my Upper Deck box. Okay, this is my Topps box. This is my this box, that box. And then eventually kind of evolved into the binder system that I have right now. But I decided that a easy project would have been, when I first started, to do just the base cards. I'll chase down inserts if I see them or at the right price, but I have no interest on them just yet. Parallels are cool. Numbered cards, I'll take. Not exactly chasing them down. And even if I already have a numbered version of the card, it's not the same number, so I'll take it. But again, I'm not chasing them down. So I found plenty of resources back in the day, either just by seeing enough of the lists over and over and over again to see that, hey, I know that this guy played for our team, or that guy played for our team, and having a near photographic memory, I started to pick up on who all of the alumni were, either between the Twins or the Senators or whomever, that I could look at a checklist and say, hey, this guy might be one of mine. Hey, this guy might be one of mine. And then being able to see it eventually, yes, that is mine. Pick it up. Um, so I nailed down that I wanted to finish the base set, and I nailed down that I wanted to do the main core companies: Tops, Donners, Fleer, Upper Deck, Score, Pinnacle, and whatnots. I kind of branched out a little bit afterwards because those binders quickly fill up outside of the vintage. And then even then, finding our local boy here, Rich Klein, and Dr. Beckett, and plenty of others have kind of helped me out fill out some of those harder to find niche Topps High Series cards, and to the point that I'm down to, I think, 2 cards in the entire Topps run for my Twins. So I'm looking forward to picking up those last 51 and 52.
So the primary focus is just the base cards.
Yes.
But it goes beyond just people in a Twins uniform.
Sure. Well, because if you look at it, so once the Senators moved to Minnesota in '61, they became the Twins.
Mm-hmm.
But from that point to 51, it's only adding another 10, 12 years. Well, why not chase down the Senators too?
Okay.
And then the Senators kind of quickly evolved to, well, Rod Carew left in '79, but he only played to '85. Well, let's pick up his too.
Okay.
Bert Blyleven left in the mid '70s, and he only played till '93. You can pick up his cards really quick. And then it kind of evolved, as the collection grew. Okay, well, Justin Morneau, he played for the Rockies and White Sox, Pirates. Maybe I'm missing a team here or there. You're just finding these fan favorites. What really took off, for me at least, were the 2001, 2002 teams where nobody expected us to do anything. We were on the threat of contraction, and having seen that in hockey, I really didn't want that to happen to my Twins. And I can rattle off all of the players from those teams, just huge fan favorites, even if they were only Luis Rivas.
What would you say is your most memorable acquisition as you've tried to pursue this goal?
It's going to burn me, but I traded a Mike Trout rookie for a PSA 4.5 Harmon Killebrew rookie card. A good friend of ours, he said he'd actually picked 2 up, but wanted to give me the best value for it, just give me something of equal return. At the time, the card only went for 60, $80. And he accepted the best offer, if you will, for it. But it nailed down one of the key vintage unattainable cards for me at the time.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I mean, you can only go so far thinking about what things might have been, or dwell on what they turned into, onto the future. And so the
Certainly.
fact that it was a fair value trade at that point, that's what you've got to focus in on and dwell on. But it still makes it memorable for sure.
Most definitely.
Do you have any Twins cards right now that are kind of your white whale, or things that you still need to fill in a hole but have had trouble tracking down or finding?
Not so much tracking down, because for the most part, everything that I have left over is attainable. But there are a few major names and card numbers that I just haven't gotten around to yet. David Ortiz's Fleer rookie. Card wise, no, I'm pretty good. Just some minor here and there's things that, if I were to show you my checklist, it was like, you're really missing this. One of the last ones, an oddity that I knocked out was 1992 Donruss card number 206. I think it's 206 or 226. Either way, Greg Gagne. Just couldn't find it for some reason, and finally found it. So
now, over the last couple of years, you moved into a position where you work full time in the industry. And sometimes when people do that and make those types of moves, they find that working full time in an industry that is related to a hobby that they've got causes them to not enjoy that hobby quite as much. Have you experienced any of that, or would you have a different perception?
To a minor degree. I mean, I love what I do. It's great. A great company. Love to work for them. But at the same time, after working 6, 8, 10 hours, or flexible schedule, so whatever I want, pulling out my boxes, it does. It's not exactly the first thing I want to do right after I get off work, but I set aside some time, and I on the weekends, or what I deem as weekends, becomes time for my hobby, my own personal side, or even hey, this is the thing I saw earlier today. Do I have that? And if I don't have that, where can I find that? So it's really fun, either not necessarily begroaning looking at my collection, but finding new ways to appreciate it while at work. Hey, I saw this earlier, looks really cool, love the set. I never would have seen it otherwise. Let me go pick up a couple of those because they feel a need.
All right, I've got a few rapid fire questions here to end our conversation.
Sure.
And first up is, what is your favorite non-sports card podcast?
Non-sports?
And by non-sport card, I don't mean entertainment cards. I mean a podcast that is not card related.
Okay, I got you. So there's some really interesting news ones. There's a couple where they take a really deep investigative dive into true crime stuff.
What is your favorite junk wax era set?
Ooh, hard not to say 1990 score, 1991 tops, but for true junkability, 1988 score.
It's got the notoriety of being the first score set as well.
It does. Just produced, well, at least the facility at the time was just produced down the road. Come to be, but it's a decent set. There's not any major real names in it. Ron Gant, really, but it's really colorful. I like the names. I like the set bios, and I think it's truly one of the most junkiest sets.
What is something that you learned outside of the hobby that has had the biggest impact for you in the hobby?
Work ethic from my father. One of my first jobs was as a teenager. He would take me along on his side gig doing construction and carpeting gigs. And, hey, $20 an hour is nice as a 14-year-old, but working hard manual labor and truly earning the value of the dollar comes to the hobby being, hey, this is nice. Do I truly want that for $1, or can I wait and pick it up later? Or can I sell this and get it appraised or however, and find a way to pay for something else? It's something that you speak to, the self-sustaining hobby, truly. But it works off of that work ethic. You have to put in the work to make what you want.
So where can people follow you?
So naturally, we're on every Wednesday, 10 Central. I don't care what time Pacific. On About the Cards on YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, anywhere you can find podcasts. On Twitter, you can find me either at Junkwax Twins or tweeting from the show account at About the Cards.
Very cool. Well, thanks again for joining me, Steph.